And we're back again with another transforming Korean robot toy because they keep making them, and inevitably some of them appeal to me, and I end up buying them. So that is why we've got this lovely lady today. This is Hello Carbot Greenfarm. I think she was released as part of the Samba line, but maybe not. I don't know for sure. But unlike the rest of the Samba line, if that is the case, she does not have the Samba animal / armor thing gimmick. She's just a straight up transforming vehicle that turns into a robot. No gimmicks or anything like that. Aside from maybe a spring-loaded thing at the chest, which we'll see in transformation. But yeah, this is Greenfarm, and as you could probably guess, since I already referred to her as she, that's a big reason why I got this figure, because I think it's cool having more, Ladybot representation in the collection. Plus, I always like it when they depart from the usual, slender, waifish kind of style for lady robots. And Greenfarm is definitely more like Strika in her build, which we will see when we get there. But yeah, it's a combination of that, which kind of fits in with Hello Carbot's Sky SWAT, which I used to have. I no longer have Sky SWAT because she's a cop, and Greenfarm, from what I can tell, is not. So I'm a little bit more into having this in the collection. But I'm kind of going off. I was going to say off script, but I don't use a script. Anyway, getting back to the entire point of this, thankfully I've only wasted about 2 minutes of your time. Greenfarm is like a big armored, like a APC, possibly semi-amphibious. It's hard to tell for sure. But big old armored vehicle. And this kind of interesting color divide in the deco of the vehicle with all this blue along the bottom and then green along top. That's kind of neat. I don't know, I think it's neat how like the way the bits all separate gives that clear separation between the top and bottom of the vehicle mode. And of course you also have lots of molded detail all over the thing. You've got this big old hatch in the back and translucent blue for the tail lights, as well as the headlights, as well as the side windows, but it's kind of a light blue, so it doesn't really stand out that much. But then there's also some other nice molded details, like this axe just kind of attached to the side here, and on the other side it's a shovel. And I don't know, I just appreciate the small details. And along the top, there's lots of other molded details, multiple hatches for some reason. Hard to say for sure how big this is supposed to be. It's a Carbot, so if the fiction for whatever series Greenfarm shows up in is the same as other Carbot stuff, she's not, an actual vehicle, I don't think, or am I thinking of Tobot? I don't even remember anymore. But anyway, as I was trying to say, the hatches make it look like people would be very tiny in this compared to this vehicle, which makes this vehicle very big. It's decently painted. I mean, there are some bits that are more painted than others, and some bits that may not look painted but actually are. Like some of the green on here is actually painted, like this strip going down the center is paint. You can see it's actually blue plastic there. And then you've also, of course, got the silver details, and unfortunately there's a little bit of silver paint slop on that one, but that's fine. All the silver is painted. The silver and orange there, the green on the tuning forks or guns, whatever those are. And of course, in the front, then you also have the Hello Carbot logo. I always like it when they do the raised logo and do like some silver paint over top of it. I think that looks cool. But anyway, I don't really know what to say about Greenfarm's vehicle mode. It's just a APC kind of looking thing, and I think it looks cool for what it is. It's not anything that's like blowing me away, but it's fine. If you don't like these bits on top, they are removable, both as accessories and you can do other stuff with them in robot mode. So we can take these off, and you're left with a much more vanilla looking APC, which I think is fine. Now, can you plug this? It looks like you can plug this into the top center piece. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. So you can plug that into the center to give her more of like a center mass turret thing. It doesn't plug in super well because it's a pretty shallow peg hole, but it does work. You can rotate these as well, but the problem is you've got these tabs here that fold in and go into this bit here, so that keeps it from rotating when it's pushed in all the way. But if you have it slightly unplugged and slightly turned up, you can rotate when it's plugged into the vehicle. And that is going to do it for the vehicle modes. So let's just move straight on into size comparisons. Let's readjust here and put her back there. And we'll bring in the usual crew to start. So we've got our standards, who are all relatively small in comparison because, you know, Carbot. So of course she is rather large, even though she is smaller for compared to like classic Carbots. Not terribly smaller, but she is smaller. And let's get these all back out of the way so I can do slightly more, well, I was going to say relevant, but not really relevant. Slightly more apt comparison. Here is Greenfarm with Laranja, who is a modern Carbot, but her size is, Laranja's size is more in keeping with like classic Carbot sizes. So she referring to Greenfarm is she's a little smaller than typical Carbots, or than classic Carbots, I should say. It's a bit more in line with, say, modern Tobots, like something from Tobot V, say. That's pretty close. Not quite as tall, but a little bit longer. I think it's relatively comparable. And, of course, got to do this one. We're always going to do this one. Okay, now, to transform Greenfarm. To start, just going to lift these pieces up. Just leave them up like that for now. We want to disconnect these bits from the side. And that can be a little tricky because they clip in pretty solidly. I find the best way to do that is to grip here, kind of just underneath this lip, or this little tuning fork looking thing, and here on the side of the engine, and pull like that with both fingers. And that gives me the grip I need to disconnect that section. So bring that out, and over here, pop that out. There we go. It does clip in very solidly. And we'll just finish the arms while we're here. So I want to take these bits and rotate them so that this tab is pointing towards the back. And the reason we want to do that is because there are these grooves on the back here that little tab will sit in, and that will keep these from rotating further in the robot mode. We can do more with this in robot mode, as I said, and I will show you that when we get to that part. Now, I want to bring what will become the arms down and rotate just below the elbow to reveal the fist. And same thing here, bring it down, rotate. Now the shoulder bits, they do move independently, so I prefer to leave them kind of up at an angle, but you can have them more down parallel to the body if you want to do that, but that's just how I want to do it. I'll just keep the arms out for now. All right, now this entire back panel unclips from what will be the legs right here. So I'm just going to reach under here and pull up and disconnect that. And now this section swings down here, and you can see this tab will sit in that groove there. So you swing this down, and when you swing it down enough so that it kind of settles and clips into place, you get the very quick and simple automorph. That pushes this bit out. It's like the one gimmick this toy has. Now we're going to separate what is obviously the legs. These bits will pull down and they actually kind of peg in right up in here. So pull this down, and then they will also kind of they kind of click, but not really. They settle into place pretty snugly when you get them extended fully, and then push the wheel in. Same thing here. Unplug and rotate and push the wheel in. And I will talk about it in a minute once we get this done, but I had to modify the legs slightly because I was having some issues. But there we've got the bulk of the robot mode done. At this point, all that's left is to reveal the head. So to do that, just take this panel and fold it down, and this will clip in right here. And as we bring that down, it's okay, I guess it's the second gimmick that this toy has. It moves this whole mechanism, so it brings this door up in addition to just getting it out of the way. And that clips into place. That reveals the head. And there we have Hello Carbot Greenfarm in her robot mode. And this is a cool looking robot mode. I like the bulk and the kind of don't mess with me attitude that I get from this. And it is really cool. The color scheme is not my favorite. I'm not huge into green. I don't dislike green. Like, I can't really say there are any colors that I actively dislike, but green is not one of my favorites. And I'm also kind of not really feeling the darker kind of foresty green that they've got going on here, in addition to the really dark, deep blues. I feel like Greenfarm could benefit from being a little bit brighter. I feel like the colors themselves are vibrant enough. It's just would be nice if they were a little brighter. And like the orange accents, I don't know. I don't really like the orange and the yellow accents that they have in a few different places, both painted and just plastic. That works with the blue. I do not think it works that well with the green. And unfortunately, a lot of those accents are directly next to the green and not the blue. So it's just certain elements of the colors that don't entirely gel with me. But that said, it doesn't look terrible, and I still think the robot mode looks really cool. Like I said, she's bulky. She's got kind of a nifty silhouette. Very surprisingly little kibble, especially for a Carbot. Like, this is very clean. And I like how she has these like tuning forks on the sides of her arms. I kind of wish you could do a little bit of something with these rather than just rotate them. But it is what it is. And, well, actually, I was going to comment on the articulation, but we'll do that when we get to the articulation bits. Now, as I said, cool looking robot, nice and bulky, decently articulated, which we'll get into. But the thing that I want to do before I forget, the feet. I did have to modify them because this motion here was incredibly tight when I got this figure. I got this figure secondhand, which is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. And it was still cheaper than importing it. But this rotation was way too tight. It was scary. And when I ended up doing some slight modification here, I realized the mechanism on this leg had actually cracked while I was doing a transformation because it's so tight. So what I ended up having to do was take out these 3 screws, take this panel off, and the way this works is there's basically just like a piston type deal, or like a peg that goes all the way up from this side of the leg through this green center mass and screws into this side, because it's like you can kind of see the split on the foot here. So you've got this half, and then this center bit here. And that piston peg thing that was going all the way through is it's both a little too thick for the opening that it's going through, so that's why it was a little too frictiony, and also it's done in like kind of a cross pattern. So it's not like a peg that's like this thick. It's like a peg that's this thick with 4 bits going off of it, and those bits are what press against the sides, and so that's why it was like it's getting stress marks and cracking on the joint, because it was too tight and it wasn't strong enough to withstand that level of friction for repeated transformations. So when I opened it up, I pulled the things apart, put a little bit of shock oil in there, put it back together, moved the foot around, and now you can see it's better. And it's still strong enough that I don't have to worry about her foot like flopping around when she's in robot mode. Like, that's not just going to pop out, but I can move it without too much effort. Before, it was like I really had to push to get it going, and it just did not feel good. Similarly, the knees were too tight. Like, now they are much better, much more fluid, but initially they were too tight, and I had to do shock oil to those as well. That was just put the shock oil like in the seam for the joints and work the knee, and like that's all it took. I didn't have to open any joints for that, thankfully. But yeah, was a little bit not super enthusiastic about it, but once I made the modifications, that made a big difference to me. And like, I didn't dislike this figure before, but I like her a lot more now that I don't feel like I'm fighting her to transform her, and also now that I don't feel like I'm going to break her. Now, for these bits here, I do think that this looks pretty okay, having these things sticking up off of her shoulders, but I prefer that she uses them as weapons. So what you can do with that is just unplug them and plug them into her fists, so you can give her these big bladed rifle things. And I think that actually looks pretty cool. And it adds a little bit more needed color breakup, more towards like the midsection of the body rather than keeping it up at the shoulders. But another thing you can do is you can flip them up to straighten them out and rotate them, and they actually make pretty convincing looking swords. So I like that. I like that you have a couple of different options in terms of how you use these bits in a display. I am a little curious, though. There seem to be like these little slots on the top there. I'm not entirely sure if that is for anything or just a product of the molding. I don't know. I'm curious. I don't see anything else that looks like it would work, like that would plug into that, but oh, just something I noticed. Now, let's take a look at that head. Let's see how well I can do this, because the lighting is not great right now. So there is Greenfarm's head, and it's a pretty decent head. I think it's cool. I think it's an irregular shape, but I like that. I like that it's not typical. Once again, you've got the bright blue light piping or plastic, which kinda works. Kinda. Get that a little more centered. Like, I don't know. It doesn't light pipe that well, but it's okay. Could be better, but whatever, I'll take it. I do think it would be nice if the visor stuck out more. It really doesn't, and that's a shame, but I could always paint that. But like I said, I think the shape is cool. I like the silver for the faceplate. That stands out on the dark blue nicely, and you actually have the yellow details that complement the blue pretty well. So it's fine. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't bother me. I think the head is cool. I just wish that the visor stuck out more. And I don't know if using a different color plastic would have made a difference or not, but oh well. Now, for articulation, as you probably noticed, the head is on a ball joint, so you can tilt left and right, look up and down, and rotate. Can you do the full 360? You cannot do the full 360. This butts into the panel here, but you can turn it plenty far. So there is that. The shoulders, we zoom out a bit here. The shoulders can go all the way around on ratchets. I feel like I prefer, like when I do just like standard standing poses, I prefer to have the shoulders back slightly and have the arms kind of bent slightly. These, I feel like they go a little bit too far back for my liking, for like the more subtle posing, but it's fine. It's me being nitpicky. I will absolutely admit to that. I don't think it's necessary that these had shallower ratchets, but it would have been nice for my purposes. Because of the transformation, the arms can go out to 90. They can't go all the way up. They stop here. And that's where the shoulder pad comes down, but they do come out. And I like to bring the shoulder pad along with them. There is no bicep rotation. That is unfortunate. It's not there. Maybe they left it out because it's a kind of thin joint. I don't know. I feel like they could have fit bicep rotation in there, but oh well. And that's another thing that I think Greenfarm has in common with the original Sky mold and Sky SWAT, for that matter, is no bicep rotation. But you do get the butterfly motion for the transformation, also like Sky SWAT and SWAT, or Sky. So you can move the shoulders back like this. So you can't exactly do bicep rotation, but you can angle the arms back, which I think, for an approximation of a bicep rotation, I think that works pretty well. So I'm okay with that. It still would have been nice to have bicep swivels, but this is fine. As you noticed for the transformation, you do get this forearm swivel that kind of works as like a wrist swivel. It doesn't really, I think, it doesn't do the part of like a bicep swivel, but it's fine. It works. And yes, as you probably also noticed, you get a 90-degree elbow. So the arms, aside from the lack of a bicep swivel, are pretty posable. And like I said, you can kind of work around the bicep swivel. There is no waist articulation, but I also don't think it could really work with how this clips into the backside, so that's fine. Get these out of the way. The legs can go forward to about there, so they can't go up the full 90. They just kind of whack into things up here. They can go back to just about 90. They can go out to not quite 90, but this is because this bit is hitting the wheel around the torso. If we use the thigh swivel, because yes, there's a thigh swivel, and go out, you can go out to 90. So it's hindered by this piece. So you've got that. You've got a 90-degree knee bend, and if you really wanted to, you could use this joint as a toe tilt. But the problem is when you rotate it, this bit stays where it is, so it doesn't really work because it doesn't leave the foot flat. It just kind of creates new problems if you do that. But the articulation on Greenfarm is pretty decent. Well, actually, it's beyond decent for a Carbot, but could be better. That's okay. What are you sticking on? My tripod is getting stuck. Okay, so yeah, articulation is pretty okay. And Greenfarm is pretty neat. Down, there we go. Now, as I said, she is a Hello Carbot figure, a newer Hello Carbot figure. I think she's actually newer than some. I think she came out between the first and second waves, if you will, of the Hello Carbot Samba figures. I don't know for sure, but she's new enough. She's within the last year. So because of that, she is huge compared to, the standards, but not huge compared to other Carbots. Not tiny by any means, but not huge. As you can see, she clearly towers over a Voyager. But when we get Laranja back out here, you'll see that she's a little on the short side. Though that being said, while she is a little on the short side, by a little bit, she is also, bulkier than Laranja, so it's a toss-up. I don't feel like you get less plastic one way or the other, but yeah, she's like short and stocky versus tall and slender, which I think works. Also, I just think these are a couple of really cool looking ladies. Kind of wish Tobot did more stuff like that. Maybe they do and I'm not aware of it, I don't know. Or heck, while I'm wishing, kind of wish Hasbro would do more stuff like that. Whatever. And before I go off on a complete non sequitur, there she is with our mainstay, the duck tank. And that is gonna do it for Hello Carbot Greenfarm, which, as I said, gives me kind of Strika vibes, which I'm very cool with. I actually, if I had the skill and ability, I would love to do like a Strika Colors repaint of Greenfarm. But as it is, I do think Greenfarm is pretty cool. I will admit this, I almost listed her on eBay. It turns out, like, I wasn't entirely sure why I wasn't feeling the figure for a while. But then when I did the fix on the feet and the knees, I realized that's why. I didn't like touching the figure because I thought I was going to break it when I tried transforming it. It was just kind of unpleasant to transform, but now that the mechanism for like moving the knees and transforming the feet is much smoother, I actually think she's really cool. Definitely, as I said, would have preferred a different color scheme here, but it's not terrible. It's not like, say, oh, what was that one's name? It was Tobot v King something. I hate that I'm not editing stuff because now I'm looking it up, and that means that this is just a whole bunch of dead air that I have to talk, and it's all awkward, and you just have to listen to me drone on and on. But I'm not going to cut it because I hate editing, and I would much rather just get the videos out. Okay, where are you? There we are. I'm looking up a playlist of my my previous videos. King Fortran, that's what it was. Tobot v King Fortran. He weirdly had a color scheme that Greenfarm reminds me of, and I was not a fan of King Fortran's color scheme. King Fortran was a very cool figure, but it was a really weird mismatched color scheme. And Greenfarm's not quite as bad. She actually has a much more limited color palette than King Fortran. But I do think the green and the blue and the yellow and the orange are not the best, most complementary colors. But, as I said, that's me being a little nitpicky. It's still a really cool figure, and even if the colors don't exactly strike me as like, wow, this is incredible, it's still a really cool figure. And, you know, while I'm not feeling the colors specifically, I think the shades they chose were pretty nice because the green does show off a lot of that molded detail pretty well. And now I've got an Astrid staring up at me off camera, so I need to call it because she's getting impatient. But that is going to do it for Hello Carbot Greenfarm. What do you think of her, or Laranja, or oh, what is it? Nighthopper. I have Nighthopper too. I need to do a video on her at some point. Or any other Hello Carbot figures that... Hi, Astrid. Hello. You want to say hi? You want to speak into the little microphone hanging off of my face? I don't know if her purring is coming through on the microphone or not, but she is on my lap now, and she is a rumbling. But anyway, let me know what you all think. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I've talked more than enough. And yeah, I don't know. Toys are awesome. I do absolutely love toys. But also, I don't think they're worth getting all worked up over. So, you know, appreciate them. But also remember, they're just toys.